Hello, hello. Yes, yes, yes. You're tuning in live this afternoon. It's METV. We're in the building. It's ladies' night, and it's gonna be all right, right? We've been entertaining ourselves as we work through the technical difficulties, and we're here. And glad to be in the building. My favorite conversation, besides family, love, little sex. I'm a human being, so I gotta say that. Um, is fatherhood. Fatherhood and family are very, very essential and important. And today's conversation will be taken over by the ladies in the room. And, believe me, they ready to take it over. As y'all know, the Rose is the queen is in the building as well. Ms. Heather Miller, good afternoon.
Hello, hello, good people.
And our favorite, the engineer with the album, The Love Story, out on every drama. Get on and cop that. It's got a variety of music and it pops for those of us.
Everybody.
There's something for everybody. Love Story, if you got one. If not, you might want to start building one. All right? Maybe one day you will have a boo thing. Woo! How about that? And so, without further ado, our guest in the building today is my sister, Miss Siba Ma'at Siba. Glad to have you. And the new name for you, my sister Sheila, because they had you change your name.
They sure did. Sachette.
Shachette. So Shachette is in the building. And ladies and gentlemen, this conversation again is about fatherhood. So for those of you who don't love us or appreciate us and not even understanding us or want to get to know us, this might be a show for you. Other than that, you might not want to watch because it's going to be nothing but love in the building today, and so I'm going to turn this over. I'm only going to wave my hand to get a word in at some point, but I'm going to turn this over so the queen can start this journey.
Well, thank you very much, Calvin T. We also have our sister Godis in the house. Godis is working with us remote, however. So in the studio, our team is here, but also remote is Godis. Are you there, Godis?
Yes, I am here.
Oh, awesome.
You need to say that with a smile. Yes, I am here.
So this conversation today is looking at, first recognizing and acknowledging Fatherhood Unity Month. And secondly, we're going to have a conversation on three levels. We're looking at our conversation from our relationship with our fathers, the men in our lives, and then our sons, because all of us have sons who are here in the studio. And so we're going to have that conversation, but we also are going to use and listen to a perspective through our own healing modality. So each of the sisters in this space with us today are a part of this goddess movement. And as we look and listen and feel into this goddess movement, it is what is happening within women who recognize that our role is part of the facilitation of this process of growth and the new world that we're creating, the new way of looking at life, the new way of looking at love, the new way of connecting to the healing energy that Earth provides and Mother Nature provides, and that each of us innately in our spirit has to resonate with one another. So I'm going to ask a Goddess to talk a little bit more about the Goddess movement and give a little bit of her perspective. And we'll just have each one of us look at our perspective through our lens in the way that we work in the energy of the time that we're in. Goddess, do you mind starting us off and talking about the Goddess movement?
The goddess movement is a movement that is happening within the spirit of women. Women are feeling a call to find and define their true self. They're recognizing that they have lived out of a vision created from the world outside of them. And so they're seeking their divine truth. They're seeking a more intimate relationship with God. And in that relationship, they're having a conversation with God, asking the most important question that one can ask is, who am I and why am I here? Until we can answer those questions with the Creator, we are living not our true selves. So this is the age of truth. This is the age of revelation, of people coming into their truth. And so most of the women, well, I'm going to say all of the women that I have met have come into this awareness of their goddess self through their prayers, meditation, and fasting, and seeking the truth within themselves.
Awesome. Thank you, Goddess. I'm going to ask, I'm going to shift over to my aunt. Mott, you want to share a little bit about your journey and your work as a goddess?
Yes. One of the things that I do is work with men. I eventually found out that that was part of my calling, to work with men. And it didn't occur to me until later on in life that everything I did, it was just all males involved in it. Wasn't anything that was planned. It's just something that just happened. And so as a result of that, I understand men on a level that most women don't, because of the dialogues and conversations that I've had with them and just watching. So I have a balance of perspective since I'm a female. Mm-hmm. I'm a woman, and I most of my interactions have been with men and males, so young men. And so in the information that they share with me, just in my observations, I can, so far I've been able to help create balance when it comes to relationships, either with male to male or male to female. When it's male to male, I have a motherly female perspective. When it's men to women, I'm a woman, so I can assist them on that level as well. So, and I have a prison ministry, so which is a male facilities in a couple of states, Michigan and Missouri at this point. So I've been given a unique perspective on both energies, the male and the female. As far as it relates to the goddess and the goddess movement, bringing that spiritual energy and the spiritual perspective, along with the intuition, wisdom, life experiences, has, allowed me to be a balanced, unbiased, person in whatever mediums that I've been in, whether it's classes or lectures or just one-on-one conversations. So,
thank you. And Sheila Chachette, tell us a little bit about your healing modalities and how the goddess movement through your lens operates, through your gifts too.
Well, in regards to healing modality, what I've gravitated towards is the field of healing, energy work, and what I've taken up the most current has been creating bath salts, excuse me, using essential oils and colors, and using those in such a way with the intention, of it balancing out people's energy, which could be imbalanced due to anger, frustration, stress, things like that. Now, as far as the goddess movement, I consider myself to still be in the infancy stage for the terminology and the movement. So I'm still new to all of this, so forgive me.
Awesome. All right, and I am Heather Hedharu, and my calling is to work with women and mothers on this journey and to provide insights, resources, and direction and some tools around changing, some tools around who we are meant to be, and helping people to navigate those waters in a way that's real and authentic for them. My gifts allow me to get a deeper insight into some pathways, into some blockages, and into some of the areas that we have that are in our meridian path. So our backstory and the things that happen in our lives that now define what we think, what we do, helping people to recognize those things, in addition to helping women to recognizing the 5 strongholds that seem to hold us in bondage and hold us in fear and hold us at this in our lower self, our lower state. And so my goal is that as we resonate and we raise our vibration, we understand more about who we are. We understand more about how our energy works, and some of the things that we talked about and shared about the balance, about having that relationship with your inner self, your inner spirit, and that spirit being a direct connection to God. To be able to do those things and do those things in a way that is not always in the traditional sense of what we look at when we talk about the journey and relationships, but to be able to keep an open mind and to open people's minds to be able to receive it and see it differently. So that's a part of my gifts, and the interesting ways that we're going to look at how we first have relationships with our own fathers. So each one of us has a very interesting and different relationship, but I also want us to look at fatherhood through this lens, this spiritual lens. And so one of us has a perspective in that spiritual lens that will lend itself to us being able to share with those who are around us listening today, to get a better understanding that and the value and importance, one, of having a father in your life, what that looks like. So we're going to start there.
We got somebody's phone is going on. All right.
Maybe that's just the buzz.
All right, that's the cue.
It's just the buzz.
Okay, go to it.
Okay, so I'll start off with my relationship with my dad. Last year in May, we actually lost my dad, in the sense that we're used to seeing somebody and picking up the phone and calling them and having conversations every day. His physical body is no longer present and with us, but for me, I don't have a separation from my dad. Mm-hmm. I still talk to him, the same kind of conversations I would call or ask for. I still have those kind of conversations. And what I feel is his responses. And what he might say when I need to hear his voice, all of those things resonate with me and for me. So I don't feel the same kind of connection. But I think the other part of that is understanding that the relationship that I had with my dad, that I grew into, and the type of appreciation that I had for him really came to be more strong as I grew aware of just the change of life. Going through the process where my dad was the one that was looking out for me growing up. He was the one that was taking care of me, providing and protecting and helping to problem solve in my life. And so as he began to get older, I realized that the roles had changed. So then part of my role was then to be that for him that he was for me growing up. And I think just the realization of that, like at that point, that dividing line where my dad needed the type of care that I needed growing up, and now he's in a position to need that very same thing. And my openness and my willing to do it, not just feeling it out of obligation, but feeling it out of a sense of love and a sense of owning the experience of being able to serve one of my elders, to serve my dad, that he was so deserving of every bit of attention, every recognition, every opportunity to celebrate him, that he had earned that over his lifetime, not just for our family, but who he was in our community. And so I honor him even now today in this conversation. I still feel him with me and him saying my name. You know, he always said my name in a particular way, Heather Nichelle, and he always affirmed you. All of the girls in our family, everybody, we always fought up with my dad. fought over his attention, because he would always give you such attention that you always felt like you were the favorite, right? And so just having that kind of relationship and being able to connect with him even now and feel that it's unbroken. That it's not broken by, time or space. He's still with me. He's still a part of me. And I find it difficult to even talk about him in past tense, just for the sake of people that, and I'm not going to deal with the element where it sounds crazy for some people that you're having a conversation with somebody who's no longer with us, but that's my experience and that's my truth. That's my journey. So if there are people that are out there that are like that have that kind of relationship, even over time and space now, that you're out there, you're not alone. So let me just say that. So I'm going to pass it over. Sheila, you want to have a conversation about your dad?
Quite often when I talk about my dad, I get emotional because I have always felt so extremely blessed to have my dad. Not just the fact of having a father, but he's been a dad. Provider, protector, teacher, everything that a child would need. My father has been and still is. I've heard someone mention that their dad is the first love, and I would have to totally agree with that. I've always looked up to my dad, respected my dad. He was truly my hero. He truly, and still is truly my hero. He's a powerful man. Always one that I looked up to. Wow. As a child, I didn't always get the attention that I would need at that moment. So in other words, if I were to ask a question, I didn't realize how involved he was mentally with other things. So a lot of times I would ask a question and would feel like I was being an irritant in the moment. But again, not understanding what was going on in his world. But when the time came, but when the time came, he always took the time to sit down and give life lessons. If I came to him with anything, he would take the time, as I said, to have a conversation. So I can truly go on and on and on. He has set a standard. He has set a standard. And because, again, he is extremely busy, as he's always been. He always took the time to love us, provide for us, take us traveling. If he had to go to meetings or conventions or anything like that, we went as a family. And even having businesses, he would always still carve out time for us as a family to go and take vacations in the midst of everything else that he had going on in his life. So he was around sufficiently enough for me to still feel loved, even though he was gone a lot. But I was always fortunate enough and blessed enough to have the insight to understand why he was gone. So I never really missed him. You know what I'm saying? It was just still the understanding that he was gone to take care of business. And so I always highly respected him for that. And like I said, he set a standard for some other people to meet.
Right. Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Godis, how about you? You want to share about your dad?
Oh, my dad. Are we getting? I'm getting it. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Okay. Okay. My dad was a dreamer. He taught me the power to dream, to visualize those things that you want to achieve, and to hold visioning. He was a quiet man, a man of words, and because he didn't speak a lot when you listen, because you knew that he had something important to say.
Godis, I think we're getting every other word. Do you
Yeah, I'm
mind?
getting,
Are you getting feedback?
yes.
You want to try again?
Okay, is it best?
A little bit better. A little bit.
Still getting on this end. Yeah. Oh, it means my screen.
You want to
Okay, I
try?
think
You
a
got
little
it?
bit
Is that
yeah,
better?
I'm still getting. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you as kind of every other word.
Oh, okay.
So, do you want
Well,
to
my
try to
problem,
log in again?
yes,
Okay,
I
we'll
will.
try. We'll try that. We'll go ahead and ask my the question.
Well, Sheila, I'm sorry, Shashette is my sister. So we share the same most awesome dad that we could have ever asked for. Our dad is a businessman. He's always been a businessman in the construction field. And so we watched him go through challenges dealing with racism. Because back then, they had an association called the Minority Contractors Association. And he was a president for a period of time of the National Association. So we witnessed, well, with our interactions with him, listening, how kids listen to conversations, that you're not part of. We would hear some of the experiences that he would go through as a contractor and being that high up in an association, and the challenges and the racism that he had to go through was absolutely ridiculous. We took part in protests. I remember being in the back of our station wagon with, I don't even remember how we did it, but playing the record, To Be Young, Gifted, and Black. And I had to be in the back of the station wagon and play that song over and over and over again through the whole protest. So, and even more recently, like in the last 20 years or something, they were trying to get a project done on Belle Isle. Once again, blocked because of, nobody's going to admit it, but it was racism for black men to have the gall to put the type of program that they were talking about doing on Belle Isle. It was an equestrian center. So, watching that, the challenges of being a black man in the day and time, because my dad's in his 80s, so imagine what life is like in the 40s, in the 50s, and what that was like. But as she said, he set a bar that no one has come close to at this point. He's always been a pillar in the community, in the field that he worked in. He has always been a mentor for youth, Boy Scouts, and his wisdom. I remember our minister, family members, back in the day coming over to the house and talking to Dad. And I'm thinking, so your pastor comes and talks to you. And that is when it stuck out in my mind that this man knows something. I need to start paying attention as a kid. And that's what I did. I really started to pay attention to everything he did and everything he said. And as she mentioned, his level of focus, you might have felt excluded as a child, but it wasn't, as because he was so laser focused on what he was doing and what he needed to accomplish, because it was for a bigger goal. It wasn't just about him. It wasn't about our family. It was about the community as well. So it's been an interesting journey, and it absolutely is my first love. There will be no love to top him.
Yeah.
We're blessed to still have him here, to be able to tap into him. And the interesting thing, Dad, he drew plans. He's a draftsman. And now they do everything on computers. My dad has never done it on the computer. He draws by hand to this day, which is a lost art.
Absolutely.
And we're hoping that one day he would share that. But his wisdom, his knowledge base on any conversation, whatever you want to have, you can have it with him. And the people's lives that he's touched, it's so numerous that we can't even count it. My dad and my mom have always shared with the community. So the home that they had, they would invite people over, the community over. Whoever wanted to come over can come over if you were invited, and have like bonfires and things like that. So service to the community is one of the main things that we were taught, that we still hold true and continue on to this day.
Wow.
Awesome.
And if I could just add one more little tidbit, with her saying his occupation is a architect and a designer, but just being a little girl and watching, with the dedication that he had, and drawing plans, it seemed to me like every single day. But just watching my dad, I actually learned how to read blueprints, and that's and just by watching, I don't recall asking him questions or anything like. But it just was a natural, intuitive gift that I guess became acquired just from observation. Mm-hmm. So, but that's just one of countless things that we can bring up. So he's.
So, Godis, are you back with us?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Can you share a little bit about your experience with your dad?
Well, my dad was a person who spoke very few words, but when he spoke, he could say, and so you keep thinking because he was saying something that was important. And so I learned the value of speaking less, because when a lot, because my mother was a person who spoke, you tend to see the person out, but because he was he what he had, and he meant it was something that was needed to be said. And so for me, that was
Wow. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you for that.
mhm.
Calvin, was there something that you wanted to share?
Well, so one, amazing, right? Just when you take in the information that was shared, and I'm sure you guys got a little bit more, but legacy is something that must be built. It has to be required in a two-parent system. Sure, you can have a legacy being an individual, but when you have it in a two-parent system, it acquires so much more. It leaves so much more. I think they've been very, very, nice and understanding that the very success that they have in their lives literally comes from the DNA of the action of their parents. I believe that we, as you well know, I just recently dropped 2 books on fatherhood. And I think that the society that we live in, we've been living in a society where we didn't, but I heard a beautiful quote. It was beautiful, a beautiful statement, and I snatched it. And what it says is, it's all about your true value is directly connected to your sacrifice.
It's true.
I be yelling and screaming, and I'm preaching about value to men, about boys and family, and right, we're talking about value. And when you guys talked about your fathers, you talked about the value of your fathers. It wasn't just one thing. It was multiple things. It was in the back of the car having to play a song. It was going through the things, the draftsman, it was the military, the things, and his family, right? Men are literally superheroes, but what society, and men included, we've allowed is for us to diminish the role that a father, a healthy father, should play. Miss Heather?
Well, thank you for that break. Well, one of the things I did want to draw out about fatherhood, to draw out about how our lens, a new lens or a different lens, with the connection between boys, men, and fathers in terms of, and the women that are around them and surround them. One of the aspirations and one of the things that I've been called to is to bring to the forefront for women our strongholds, because once we awaken, our men are actually set free. And this movement, this Godis movement, and this movement that is happening throughout our community, the pulsating of this movement, really is about the more we connect and get more in tune and become who we were meant to be, the more we support that with the boys, the men, and the fathers.
Right?
Right?
The husbands and
No.
the fathers.
We're not talking about husbands today.
Well,
We're talking about
if you're
boys.
gonna put that sentence
men,
together, husbands
father.
and father.
That's your lane. That's your lane. Yeah. So from our perspective, we see men in the same category as husbands.
Well, I'd like to debate that a little bit.
Debate.
And he points to me.
No need to debate it.
Right.
You have to be I'm going to say when I talk about men, I'm talking about the potential for being a husband, the potential for being a father. Right. I'm looking at father from having my own father.
Right.
Not from
which he was a husband first.
He was a husband
All
first.
right, don't make me preach.
So we're not talking about the politics of it. Thank you.
You see that, Shasha?
I'm watching.
So, but it's really important because what we have an expectation, I think sometimes as women, we have the expectation that the man will arrive and that we know that the true essence, and I'm talking about the spiritual essence and energy that is connected to manhood, the energy of masculinity and the energy of femininity, when those come together, then that's when the emergence happens. When she is balanced, she doesn't have to be him. She should be she, right? But when the balance happens between the two, that's when the emergence for her to be able to balance both her masculine and feminine, and for him to be able to balance his masculine and feminine, without it being so much gender as it is energy, energetic movement, and an understanding of that first, and then I think the rest of it may emerge. But if we don't do our part to remove some of the barriers, remove some of the, or recognize when we have assumptions and expectations versus something that has actually been communicated, I think then we had that conversation more about men to husband. That's when we're looking and talking about mates. But I'm talking about in general, men becoming as women are becoming. It's like as part of that that essence of the first teachers, the first the ones that bring that child into the world, that part, that cultivating of that understanding of your role energetically, your role spiritually, not just your role as a female, as a woman. I think if you understand and start to cultivate those things, then those other things start to take shape.
Man, how do you do that, Houdini?
Can I?
Go ahead.
Women,
Go ahead, Goddess.
Women have to be of nurture. When you nurture, everyone grows. Women felt that to be nurturing is to be passive or if the nation is not uh, powerful. And this one of the most powerful things that a woman could have the ability to have,
Mm-hmm.
because everything around her men better, the children, but in that nature, she has to connect with spirit. So she
Yes.
would know what is needed to help a person, because she can see the person beyond their pain, beyond their anger, and know the cause of it, and also know the.
So I got what she was saying, and she kind of mimicked what you were saying. But what I want to know, because this is my question at this time, right? What I want to know is, how do you get them there? Because there are so many, literally, so many that do not, right? So we're having this conversation. We're talking about dads. Now, your dad was built. Something built him to do what he did and has done, right? Something built him. Right? So what was it that, so we can understand, I think more than anything, even in your work and your Godis work, we have to understand the building process and how we can get to a person and build them to understand the things that you guys are doing. Is there an agreement or a disagreement there? I mean, because it's very difficult in today's society where so much comes at them. Like you can pick up Instagram right now, everybody got a booty. You know what I mean? And it's just amazing that it's always in the screen. And so then you have a few things, and you like since when did we just become that? And I'm saying there's something is we're not building what we need. So that's why I'm so staunch when it comes to boys, men, fathers. Right?
I don't think it's no one thing.
Okay.
Because no one thing created the division.
That's right. That's right.
So
love that.
The morals have been degraded to nothing. Families have been broken up. There's no family structure. There's no neighborhood. There's no responsibility assumed by the man or the woman. There's no responsibility taken from the society, from the neighborhood, from the culture, on any level. When you do not have a cultural structure, if you look at other cultures, just look at an African community, just something you pull up on YouTube. Shashette has traveled to Africa. And one of the things I remember her saying is the village that they went into, some of them, the people had nothing. But the children were disciplined, they were laughing, they were playing, they were polite, greeted them. So what creates that? There has to be a cultural structure that takes place that addresses all aspects of life. Whether there's a system, which is why they have the what do you call it when the men rites of passage, right? That's why they have rites of passage programs, typically for the males. The women usually in cultures, when a young lady gets her cycle, that is her rites of passage. They have certain structures in place on how to deal with certain things when it comes to the children, the adolescents, the teens. You know, there was a structure set in place for all of those. At the end of the day, or if something was wrong, they would sit down and they would, they would have like stories that would tell things that dealt with morals and how to solve problems. They would take the child's side and deal with them in a loving way, but a firm way on their behavior or lack thereof. So these are things that we don't have in place.
Or no longer have in place.
Exactly.
No longer have
Or
in
not
place.
obviously in place, because
Right.
there are successful families.
That's true.
Right.
But they had a strong foundation that started with that structure that we're talking about.
Right.
The other thing, too, to address is there is from a spiritual perspective, there is a movement that is happening in the spirit that women in tune enough feel. And when the subject comes up, they've agreed to it, of that spiritual call that they're getting. And that call is from a higher power. Can't tell you exactly where it's from, but all of us intuitively feel it. And that call is a call to order, whatever that's going to look like. So women are coming together in groups and goddess groups and different organizations and having the dialogue basically on how do we get here and what do we do now. So it is happening. And, as they say, what was once before shall be again. Okay, we've always been a great people, and we're on our road to being great people again.
Now, if I can go back just a little bit, when it came to address your part of your initial question, I don't remember the whole thing, but when it came to my dad, I think with him, the catalyst for him was just natural drive that he had. And he had a vision, and he stuck with that vision, and he worked it. But he himself had, by way of his parents, strong, focused visions in regards to business and things like that. So I think that was definitely part of his foundation. And then, like she said, when I went over to Africa and we did go to the villages, they did have structure, but it was a communal thing. Everyone took part. Their village, the homes were in a circle, and everyone would meet in that circle for everything. So the men did their part, the women did their part, whatever those parts were, because I wasn't there long enough to be able to dissect everything like that. But you could still get a feel that everyone had a place and a purpose. I remember going somewhere, and there was a child. I would have to say that child was about maybe 4, maybe 4. And he was walking down the road totally by himself, and he had a machete in his hand. But you could feel energetically that he knew exactly how to use it, that it was used to be a tool, not a toy. And I just didn't fear for the child as if I would fear for a child here in this country having a tool like that. So there energetically, it's a total different environment. Again, it's more family oriented. It's more communal oriented. The energy is just different. Here, each individual family just seems to be segmented. Well, this is mine. This household has to accomplish this. But like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. So there are some differences, but like she said, I believe that we're getting back to the way things should have been, or should have maintained that.
I think you can't exclude yourselves, right? From Godis to Mann to Heather to yourselves. I think you can't exclude yourselves in the work that you have already done. The lives that you've already impacted speaks to the fact that the community, the village, was still at work. All of you have done some things to help maintain, monitor, uplift, inspire different walks of life. You've done your part. As she said, it can't just be one thing. And I don't want you guys to get away from the fact of what you have each accomplished and doing and helping, because that in itself, for you to sit here, share, talk about your dads, that's impact. Therefore, what your dads did was impact your lives. And then he impacted your lives to do for others in inconceivable ways. Listen to her, talk about going into prisons and having a prison ministry while maintaining business. That's your dad. You see, we have to really, that's what I'm saying. When we talk about value and we talk about people, we speak to what damage has been done, but forget what we have given to prevent the damage, right? You all have committed to the prevention of more damage. If you didn't do the things that you were doing and that you looking to do more, right? And I say that because a lot of times, even myself, I forget. It was talking to Sam this morning, my neighbor, right? And he said, it's nothing like life. This was the sweetest comment he said. He said, you know, everybody yell and scream about life. He said, but there's nothing more precious in life, being able to sit down, look in the sky, and remember where you came from. I said, you know what, Sam, that's it right there, right? So as we, you know, close out, each and every one of you, please give a number, address, or something where some people can reach you and where some more women can get involved. And so we can continue to do this preventive work, because that's exactly what we're doing.
Yes, so I'll start off. This is Heather Heteru. You can reach me first at my website at yourinspiredjourney.com. You can also reach me by phone at 313-759-7855.
For Sachette, you can reach me by email at healusall, that's HEAL _US_ALL at yahoo.com, or area code 947-333-1513.
Okay, I'm on Facebook. Ma'at Sabah is one page, my personal page. Relationship First Aid is my spiritual relationship page, and Messages from the Mann Prison Ministry is the prison ministry page. I'm available at Relationship First Aid at yahoo.com. I just got on Instagram, so on Instagram it's relationshipfirstaid.com. So hit me up, because I don't have any posts on there yet. I'm new, so I'll have something up in the next day or so.
Okay. Godis.
This is you at Facebook, where you can some of the videos and portraits of women who celebrate or waking up themselves. You can also see me at Godis, Godesgod at gmail.com.
You know it, Bob.
Goddess, I'm going to repeat that, okay? You said you could be reached on Facebook, right? That was at Goddess, and on Godis, and then for her email,
Goddess Designs.
Goddess Designs. It's on Facebook. Goddess Designs is on Facebook, and then Goddess GODDES GODIS at gmail.com. Goddess, God is at gmail.com.
Yeah.
So we come to the point, understanding that fatherhood in its essence. Thank you, ladies, and great. Took in the stories about your dad. You know, even meeting your dad was a nice experience, right, to see. And I think a lot of times, right, in our society, we allowed the television to tell us what to do. We allowed media to perpetrate upon us, right, to tell us a vision. And I think what happened was we decided to tell the world that tell us a vision, the negatives of fathers and fatherhood. So we perpetuated. I often say about young men all the time, I said, normally when you see what's happening, they're only acting out what they're trained to act out in. Mm-hmm. So if I'm participating in the television says that I'm a criminal, right? Because of breaking news. The only way that I can get some attention, because everyone looks at me as the same way, is be what the television told me to be. Oftentimes when we're in the neighborhoods and we see young men and we see fathers and they're marginalized and they don't look like they take care of themselves and their hair, but yet they're involved. The most involved father since 2012 was the black father, but the involvement lacks for the in-home involvement. Although he's the most involved father, being in-home is where we lacks. A recent study came out to show that the shared parenting is the best way to raise a child. So in other words, the system is getting back to the idea of the importance of a two-parent model. I say all that to say you guys had a wonderful parents who set the tone for the idea of family. Unfortunately, so many of us did not build men. We stopped building men and started building pimps and players and procrastinators, and opposite of what we really needed, fear. You notice men take steps backwards. We retreat, right? We use the term staying out the way. What you're doing, staying out the way, instead of like your dad being in the way, or instead of like Calvin Mann taking the mantle and not afraid at all to move it, not one bit, and stands up and know, because I have the same information that you have, that my skin takes over, because my journey is lodged not only in my spirit, but in my skin. So we must understand the importance of what just took place here. And so I just cannot say enough of you. To everyone out there, you must remember, put your family first. It is just so important to set standards of family. Yeah, of course, we have a whole bunch of turn up, but we have a whole lot of funerals too. And I'm sure we can do something about that. My name is Calvin Mann. God bless you and encourage me. I'm young. Peace.
Calvin T. Mann, leading Emmy, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to Emmy TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.